What really happens when you hurt a narcissist? Not just bruise their ego a little, but truly expose their mask, stand your ground, or walk away from their control. Because the moment you do, something shifts inside them. The person who once smiled at you, praised you, maybe even loved you, suddenly becomes unrecognizable. Their silence feels cold, their energy feels off, and deep down you sense it. Revenge is brewing. But is every narcissist out for revenge? Or is there something even darker behind the calm smile they wear after you finally say enough? In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of their hidden rage, the quiet plans they make, and the spiritual lesson buried inside their need to destroy what they can't control. So stay until the end, because what you'll discover might change how you see every narcissist you've ever met. And before we begin, if you've ever felt that strange mix of fear and freedom after breaking free from a toxic person, hit that subscribe button and share your story in the comments. Your experience might be the light that helps someone else escape their storm.
It always begins so quietly. You're not trying to start a war. You're simply speaking the truth, setting a boundary, or finally saying no. Maybe you tell them that their behavior hurt you, or you refuse to be controlled any longer. It's a small moment for you, but to a narcissist, it's an explosion. That single act of honesty becomes a deep wound to their pride. What you see as healthy communication, they see as betrayal, because in their world, you're not allowed to have power. You're not allowed to reflect the truth back to them. The moment you do, it's as if you've shattered the mirror they've carefully built, the one that always showed them as perfect, admired, untouchable. Inside, something twists. Their calm expression may stay, but their ego trembles. Narcissists live off admiration like air. When that admiration fades, even slightly, panic takes over. It's not normal sadness or disappointment, it's humiliation. They feel naked, stripped of control, and humiliation for them is unbearable. That's when the mask begins to crack. You might see it in their eyes, that flicker of coldness, that sudden distance, or that sharp tone hidden beneath forced politeness. They might laugh it off, but the silence afterward feels heavy. Because deep down, you know they've taken your truth as an attack. This is the moment most people miss, the instant their ego fractures. The narcissist begins rewriting the story. You become the problem, the reason for their pain, the villain in their new narrative. Every word you spoke, every truth you revealed becomes twisted to protect their fragile sense of superiority. They can't admit fault, so they turn the light back on you. And as their ego tries to recover, you'll start to feel it, the shift in energy, that sudden coldness, or the withdrawal of affection, or the small strategic jabs that follow. What's really happening is simple, but powerful. You've touched the one place they can't bear to look, their own emptiness. They've built their entire identity to hide it, to convince the world and themselves that they are more, better, special. But your boundary, your truth, tears open that illusion. And in that exposure, they feel small, weak, and powerless, emotions they can't handle. So instead of facing those feelings, they project them outward. They make you feel what they can't process. This is how their silent revenge begins, not always with screaming or chaos, but with cold precision. They retreat into their ego, plotting ways to restore the control they lost. And it's in that stillness that their darkness grows. You've unknowingly stepped into a psychological storm, not because you were wrong, but because you finally dared to stand in your truth. The moment you hurt their ego is the moment you stop feeding their illusion. And that's when they realize they can't survive without the version of you that once believed their lies.
At first, you'll feel something subtle, a strange change in their energy. The warmth that once drew you in begins to cool. The charming smiles, the perfect words, the attention that once felt so constant
it all starts to fade. You may not even understand what's happening at first. You'll replay old conversations in your mind, wondering what changed, what you said wrong, or how their eyes suddenly went from gentle to distant. But here's the truth. Nothing changed about you. What's changing is the mask they wore. The version of them that seemed so confident, loving, and attentive was never real. It was an image carefully designed to win your trust, your admiration, your devotion. And now that you've hurt their ego, now that you've seen behind that image, the mask begins to crack. You'll notice little things first. Their compliments become criticisms wrapped in sarcasm. Their laughter sounds hollow. The way they look at you shifts from admiration to irritation. The attention you once had becomes silence. Deliberate silence, the kind meant to make you chase them again. They're not ignoring you by accident. It's punishment. It's their way of reminding you who's supposed to hold the power. Narcissists can't handle equality in relationships. The moment you stop worshiping them, they start seeing you as competition, not a partner. That's when their anger begins to show. Not always loud, but sharp, cutting, and strategic. They might start questioning your worth, twisting your words, or bringing up your past mistakes in moments that catch you off guard. It's all part of the mask slipping. The sweet talker turns cold. The listener turns dismissive. The perfect person starts to look frighteningly human. And that's exactly what they hate the most. Because the mask was never meant to protect you from them. It was meant to protect them from you seeing who they really are. Underneath that charm lies insecurity so deep it feeds on control. When their mask starts to crack, you're seeing the truth they've worked their entire life to hide. The fear of being unimportant, unseen, replaceable. They don't know how to love without control, how to connect without manipulation, or how to face pain without blame. So they attack. They pull away, withdraw affection, and make you question your reality. It's their way of rebuilding power, brick by brick, while you stand there wondering what went wrong. That's when the real war begins. Not the kind fought with shouting or fists, but a silent, psychological battle. They'll test how far you'll bend, how deeply you'll doubt yourself, how much you'll chase the person they used to be. But don't be fooled. The version of them you miss was the performance. The anger, the coldness, the cruelty. That's the truth behind the mask. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. When a narcissist feels wounded, something inside them shifts, not toward healing, but toward control. Their mind doesn't process pain the way yours does. You might reflect, cry, or try to understand what went wrong. But a narcissist? They translate pain into strategy. They don't sit with hurt feelings. They plot ways to even the score. To them, emotions are weakness, and revenge is how they restore power. That's why the moment their ego is bruised, their thoughts spiral, not around the truth, but around how to make you pay for exposing it. In their world, revenge isn't cruelty, it's balance. It's how they fix the story in their head. Because remember, they live inside a narrative where they're always the hero or the victim, never the villain. So when you hurt them, you threaten that fantasy. You remind them they're human, and that's unbearable. To protect that fragile illusion, they twist everything. They convince themselves that you're the one who wronged them, betrayed them, disrespected them. That lie becomes fuel, the reason they can now justify every cruel word, every silent punishment, every plan to make you regret standing up for yourself. The scary part is how calm they can appear during this phase. On the surface, they may smile, say they've moved on, even act polite. But behind that calmness, their mind is a storm. They're replaying every conversation, every argument, every moment you didn't submit, searching for a way to turn the tables. You might notice small signs, subtle jabs disguised as jokes, sudden coincidences where things start going wrong for you, or people in your circle beginning to see you differently. That's not by accident. That's the revenge taking shape. Quiet, strategic, and patient. See, to a narcissist, revenge isn't just about hurting you. It's about feeding them. Each time you react, defend yourself, cry, explain, or beg, they feel alive again. Your pain becomes proof that they still matter, that they still have power over you. It's how they heal their ego, not their heart. And that's the most dangerous part. They see your suffering as validation, not cruelty. So when their mind enters revenge mode, understand this. You're not dealing with reason anymore. You're dealing with someone who's decided your pain is the cure for their insecurity. The best way to protect yourself is not by fighting back, but by starving their control. Don't argue. Don't explain. Don't feed the drama. Because revenge only satisfies them if you still care. And once your silence becomes unshakable, their medicine turns into poison. Not for you, but for them.
Emotional retaliation is the narcissist's most subtle and destructive weapon, a psychological game that leaves no visible wounds, yet cuts the deepest. They know that open aggression can expose them, so they choose quieter methods of punishment. You'll rarely see it coming because it hides behind normal, everyday behavior. The sudden silence, the cold distance, the fake smile that feels just a little too practiced. They punish you not through shouting, but through absence, through the withdrawal of warmth, affection, or attention that once made you feel safe. And it's that quiet cruelty that makes you start questioning yourself. They might stop responding to your messages for days, only to reappear as if nothing happened. When you ask what's wrong, they'll shrug or say, "You're imagining things." This isn't confusion by accident, it's intentional. Narcissists understand that silence can scream louder than words. They use indifference as a mirror to make you wonder what you did wrong, to make you chase their approval again. Every time you doubt yourself, they regain control. It's their way of saying, "You need me more than I need you." And sometimes their punishment comes disguised as kindness. They'll do something thoughtful or gentle right after they've hurt you, making you believe maybe things are okay again. That's not love, that's manipulation. It's emotional whiplash. You go from pain to peace to pain again until you can't tell what's real anymore. The push and pull keeps you addicted to their validation. You start overthinking every interaction, apologizing for things you didn't do, lowering your boundaries just to keep the peace. That's exactly where they want you, lost in self-doubt, dependent on their next mood swing. Emotional retaliation also shows up in more subtle ways: sarcasm disguised as jokes, delayed replies, ignoring your achievements, or giving affection only when it benefits them. Each small act is designed to make you feel unseen and unimportant. And when you finally react, when you cry, confront them, or pull away, they'll call you too sensitive, dramatic, or ungrateful. That's how they flip the script and turn your pain into proof of their innocence. What's most painful is that this retaliation doesn't look like revenge from the outside. To others, they might seem calm, polite, even loving. But behind closed doors, you feel the emotional temperature drop, the invisible punishment that only you can sense. It's a way of saying, You'll pay for hurting me, but no one will ever see it. The only way to break free from this cycle is to stop playing the game. Recognize their silence and indifference for what it is: control. Don't chase their attention or apologize for imaginary wrongs. The moment you stop reacting, their power begins to fade. Because emotional retaliation only works when you let their behavior define your worth. And once you reclaim that power, their silence no longer feels like punishment. It becomes your peace. It happens quietly, almost invisibly at first. You'll notice people treating you differently. A strange look, a sudden coldness, a question that feels a little too pointed. You won't understand why, because you haven't done anything wrong. But somewhere behind the scenes, the narcissist has already begun rewriting the story. They're crafting a new version of reality, one where they are the misunderstood hero, and you are the cruel, unstable villain who broke their heart or turned against them. It's called the silent smear campaign, and it's one of their most dangerous weapons. The narcissist knows exactly how to play the role of the victim. They'll speak softly, act confused, maybe even tearful, carefully choosing words that make people sympathize with them. "I don't know what happened. I tried everything to help, but they just changed." Those words sound innocent, but they plant seeds of doubt in the minds of others. The narcissist doesn't need to shout or accuse, they just need to imply. And slowly, your reputation begins to unravel, not because of what you did, but because of what they've carefully suggested. Behind closed doors, they collect fragments of your life, things you've shared in confidence, mistakes you've made, your emotional reactions, and twist them into ammunition. To your face, they may still act friendly or neutral, pretending nothing's wrong. But behind your back, they're painting a portrait of you as manipulative, ungrateful, or unstable. And because narcissists often appear charming and credible, people believe them. They have a way of sounding rational while making you look irrational. It's a performance, and you've unknowingly become their storyline. The true cruelty of a smear campaign isn't just in the lies, it's in how isolated it makes you feel. Friends start pulling away, colleagues become distant, even family members might start doubting your side of the story. You'll feel an invisible wall forming between you and the world, and that's exactly what the narcissist wants. Their goal is control, and isolation is their favorite form of punishment. If they can destroy your credibility, they regain the power you took when you exposed them. But here's what they don't expect. Truth has endurance. Lies need constant feeding. Truth stands on its own. While their story might spread quickly, it also burns out just as fast when the mask slips again. People eventually start to notice inconsistencies, contradictions, and patterns. The same charm that once fooled everyone begins to feel rehearsed. The same victim act starts to sound suspiciously familiar. And in time, the very web they spun to trap you becomes their undoing. So when you find yourself at the center of whispers and false stories, stay calm. Don't chase rumors or try to defend yourself to everyone. That's what they want. Let your integrity do the talking. Because when the smoke clears, and it always does, the truth will reveal who was wearing the mask all along. When a narcissist says, "I'm over it," most people breathe a sigh of relief. The tension breaks, the arguments stop, and for a brief moment, you think maybe things are finally getting better. But that calm you feel? It isn't peace, it's preparation. Narcissists rarely move on from anything that hurts their ego. What looks like forgiveness is usually calculation. What feels like stillness is a storm quietly forming behind their eyes. This is what I call
revenge disguised as peace, when the narcissist lowers their weapons only to sharpen them out of sight. After a confrontation, boundary, or breakup, they know you're tired. They know you crave calm and closure, so they give it to you, not out of compassion, but control. They'll suddenly act composed, mature, even spiritual, saying things like, "It's all in the past," or "I wish you the best." But underneath that soft tone lies a hidden message: "I'm not done with you yet." They're studying your emotions, testing your reactions, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike where it will hurt the most: your credibility, your confidence, or your peace of mind. This phase can be especially deceptive because their behavior seems so balanced. They stop arguing, they stop blaming, they might even become unusually kind or distant, whichever keeps you off balance. Narcissists understand timing like chess players. They know that the best revenge doesn't come from open rage, it comes from patience. They'll let you relax, rebuild your trust, and believe the worst is over. That's when you start lowering your guard, sharing details again, reconnecting emotionally, or feeling safe enough to be vulnerable. And right when you think it's over, they quietly set their plan in motion. It could be a smear campaign started months after you thought peace had been made. It could be the sudden spread of private information you once shared in confidence. Or maybe it's more subtle, a calculated message to someone important in your life, a rumor disguised as concern, a silent manipulation meant to make you doubt your sanity again.
When a narcissist's energy turns dark, it's not something you can always explain, but you can feel it. The air around them becomes heavier, colder. Their words might sound calm, but there's venom underneath. You'll notice it in their eyes, that quiet, unsettling stare that lingers a little too long. They're studying you, measuring how much light you still have left, because deep down, they know your peace threatens everything they built on illusion. A narcissist's energy doesn't just shift, it transforms. What once felt charming and magnetic becomes draining and toxic. They start sending silent waves of hostility, cloaked in politeness. They'll smile while their eyes say, "I'll make you pay." They might act unbothered, even spiritual, but it's a performance, a mask to hide the spiritual war they've declared in secret. Their jealousy morphs into obsession. Your calmness, your joy, your healing, all of it becomes a mirror reflecting what they lack inside. And instead of facing that emptiness, they turn it outward. They attack your light because it exposes their shadows. You become a reminder of everything they pretend to be: confident, grounded, and free. But here's what they don't understand. Energy doesn't lie. You can't fake light, and you can't hide darkness forever. The more they project bitterness, the more it consumes them. Their fake smiles start to fade. Their control begins to slip. And that's when the spiritual war fully unfolds. It's not about words or actions anymore. It's about vibration, presence, and inner strength. They'll try to bait you back into chaos, to make you defend yourself, to pull you down where they feel comfortable. But if you stay still, rooted in peace, you win the unseen battle, because darkness can't survive where there's genuine light. The narcissist's rage may grow, but it also burns them from within. And as their energy turns darker, yours becomes brighter, protected, purified, and untouchable. What you're witnessing isn't just revenge, it's a soul in crisis, unable to face its reflection. They'll do anything to silence the mirror you've become. But the truth is, your light was never their enemy. It was their opportunity to heal, one they rejected. So when you feel that shift in energy,
Don't fear it. Recognize it for what it is, a sign that you've grown beyond their reach. In that moment, their darkness only confirms your transformation. And though they may plot, gossip, or manipulate, nothing they do can dim the radiance of a soul that's awakened. Because the light they once tried to destroy now shines too bright to ever fade again.
It's strange how quietly power shifts. There's no dramatic ending, no loud confrontation, no explosion of words, just a silence that feels different this time. It's not the kind of silence they used to weaponize. It's yours. You're no longer waiting for their approval, no longer reacting to their moods, no longer explaining yourself to someone who never wanted to understand you. This is the turning point, the moment a narcissist realizes you're no longer afraid of them, and that realization terrifies them more than anything else ever could. For so long, fear was their anchor. Your anxiety, your tears, your confusion, it all fed their sense of control. They studied you carefully, learned how to push your buttons, how to make you doubt yourself, how to make you feel guilty just for wanting peace. But now, something has changed in your energy. You're not fighting anymore, not pleading, not chasing closure that never comes. You've outgrown the cycle that once kept you trapped. And for the narcissist, that loss of emotional control feels like death. They'll sense it before you say a word. Your calm energy unsettles them. The way you respond with stillness, the way you look at them without fear, it mirrors back their own emptiness. They can't provoke you the same way, can't twist your words, can't use your empathy against you. Every tactic that once worked now falls flat. They'll try their usual tricks, guilt, charm, threats, even sudden acts of kindness. But none of it lands. And that's when they start to panic, though they'll never admit it. You'll see it in their eyes, that flicker of confusion mixed with anger, as they realize their old magic no longer works on you. They might lash out, suddenly accusing you of being cold, selfish, or heartless. They'll say you've changed, and they're right, you have. But they'll say it like an insult, not a truth. Because in their mind, your peace feels like betrayal. They can't comprehend a version of you that doesn't revolve around their chaos. So they'll start testing you again. They'll poke at your boundaries, bring up the past, or try to make you feel responsible for their emotions. When none of it gets a reaction, they'll shift from anger to desperation. You'll notice them mimicking your calmness, pretending to be healed, talking about moving on or finding peace. But pay attention, it's performance, not growth. Their calm isn't real. It's a mask designed to lure you back into engagement. And yet, nothing they do seems to reach you anymore. That's when the real panic sets in, the silent kind that eats at their ego. Narcissists thrive on emotional control. When you take that away, they lose their sense of identity. Your detachment is like holding up a mirror to their own powerlessness. They realize they can't manipulate what they can't move. They can't guilt someone who no longer feels responsible for their pain. They can't seduce someone who's already learned the difference between attention and affection. Your peace becomes their greatest threat, not because you're doing anything to them, but because you're doing nothing. You've stopped giving them energy, stopped defending yourself, stopped reacting, and that silence forces them to face what they've always run from, themselves. They start to see that the person they built their world around no longer needs them, that all their control, all their mind games, all their charm, it was never real power. It was borrowed energy from your empathy, your love, your fear, and now it's gone. They may try one last push, a sudden confession, a fake apology, a memory meant to pull at your heart. But deep down, you'll feel the difference. You'll see how hollow their words sound, how forced their affection feels. You no longer crave their validation because you've already found peace within yourself. That's what terrifies them most. Not your anger, not your distance, but your freedom. They realize they can't reach you anymore, and that realization cracks the illusion they've lived behind for so long. This is the moment when the power truly shifts, not when you win, but when you stop playing. Your calmness isn't weakness, it's clarity. You've stopped confusing chaos with connection. You stopped mistaking their drama for depth. You've learned that peace doesn't need permission. And when they finally understand that, when they see that your chaos no longer stirs you, it leaves them standing alone in the very emptiness they tried to fill through you. That's why your peace is the one thing they can't control. It's untouchable, it's silent, it's sacred, and the moment they realize they no longer own your emotions, they lose the only power they ever had. In that quiet victory, you don't need revenge, closure, or even understanding. You simply walk away, not with anger, but with calm certainty, because you finally see what they never could. That freedom isn't found in fighting the narcissist. It's found in no longer needing to.
Retaliation is exactly what a narcissist craves. It's the fuel that keeps their darkness alive. When you react, when you try to expose them, when you argue back, you're giving them the energy they can no longer create within themselves. They don't care if your response is anger, tears, or frustration. What matters is that you're still engaged. To a narcissist, your emotional reaction means they still have power. That's why the most powerful move you can make isn't revenge, it's restraint. It's the ability to look at their chaos and not be moved. Because when you stay calm, when you refuse to play their game, you shatter their illusion of control. They can't fight peace. They can't argue with silence. They can't manipulate someone who no longer reacts. You must understand, narcissists are addicted to emotional warfare. They want you loud, defensive, unstable. They'll provoke you with lies, twist your words, and spread rumors just to get you to break character. But when you choose stillness over reaction, they begin to crumble. Your silence forces them to face the one thing they fear most, themselves. It takes strength to not fight back. It takes wisdom to understand that pace is not weakness, it's divine strategy. Every time you refuse to retaliate, you're reclaiming your power piece by piece. You're showing the universe that you're no longer ruled by their drama, that your energy now belongs to healing, not to proving a point. When you stay consistent, grounded, and unbothered, they start to lose the emotional leverage they once held. Their words lose impact, their manipulation loses rhythm, and slowly the same chaos they tried to drag you into becomes the trap they fall into themselves. Your calmness doesn't mean you've forgotten the pain, it means you've outgrown the war. Your silence is not surrender, it's sovereignty. Because peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the quiet fire that burns away toxicity without you ever having to lift a hand. So, when the urge to fight back rises, breathe. Remember that their chaos can't touch you unless you open the door. Let your peace be your response, your growth be your revenge, and your silence be the loudest truth they'll ever hear. In the end, it's not about winning the argument, it's about protecting your energy. And that's the kind of victory no narcissist can ever take away.
When a narcissist plots revenge, they believe they're untouchable, clever enough to manipulate outcomes, powerful enough to rewrite the story. But what they forget is that God sees everything they do in secret. Every lie they whisper, every plan they hide, every mask they wear, nothing escapes divine vision. You don't have to expose them. Time and truth will. Because when God steps in, their web of deceit begins to unravel from within. Their plans always look strong in the beginning, calculated, strategic, unstoppable. But just when they think they've won, something unexpected happens. Their lies start to collide. The people they manipulated begin to see cracks. Their charm fades, their reputation shifts, and suddenly, everything they built on deception collapses. Not by your hands, but by divine timing. That's how God protects his chosen ones. Not through vengeance,
but through revelation. You see, when you walk in truth, you're protected by something no narcissist can touch: divine favor. Their revenge may look fierce, but it's built on sand, and when the winds of truth blow, it all falls apart. Every word they used against you becomes a mirror reflecting their own darkness. Every trap they set for you becomes the hole they fall into. It's not coincidence, it's consequence. You don't need to fight dirty, because truth fights for you. God doesn't need your anger, He needs your faith. He handles what you can't see: the conversations behind closed doors, the lies spread in your absence, the hearts they try to poison against you. He exposes everything in His own perfect moment. And when He does, justice doesn't just restore your peace, it humbles the narcissist in ways you never could. The most powerful thing you can do is stay aligned with the light. Keep walking with integrity, even when you're misunderstood. Keep forgiving, even when they don't deserve it. Because forgiveness isn't about excusing them, it's about freeing yourself from their control. God honors that kind of strength. He takes what was meant to break you and uses it as the foundation of your breakthrough. So when you feel the sting of their betrayal or the weight of their revenge, remind yourself, you're not unprotected, you're divinely guarded. Every scheme against you is already doomed to fail, because no darkness can prosper where truth and faith reside. The narcissist's downfall doesn't come from your hands, it comes from divine order. And when it happens, it will be so clear, so complete, that you'll know it was never your fight to begin with, it was God's.
The spiritual lesson behind a narcissist's revenge is one of the most powerful awakenings a person can experience. It doesn't feel that way in the beginning, of course. At first, it feels like betrayal, deep, personal, unfair. You gave your heart, your loyalty, your empathy, and in return, you were met with deceit, manipulation, and cruelty. It's a kind of pain that cuts through the soul, because it doesn't just destroy trust in others, it shakes your trust in yourself. You begin to wonder how someone could claim to love you and still choose to wound you so deeply. But that's exactly where your awakening begins. Every attack that was designed to break you actually becomes the tool that shapes you. Every moment you were mocked, gaslighted, or silenced taught you something priceless: how to see through illusions, how to discern real love from false admiration, and how to stand in truth even when it costs you everything. The narcissist's revenge isn't a punishment, it's a mirror. It shows you what you've outgrown, what you'll never tolerate again, and what kind of light you carry that made them so desperate to dim it. Their betrayal becomes your breakthrough because it forces you inward, back to the divine source of your strength. When everything external collapses, you start to realize that your worth was never in their validation. It was always in your resilience. The pain they caused becomes the fire that burns away your illusions. You stop seeking approval and you start seeking peace. You stop chasing love and you start embodying it. And in that transformation, you become untouchable. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. Spiritually, narcissists are often catalysts. They come into your life to trigger unhealed wounds, to expose your need for external validation, and to show you where your boundaries are weak. They force you to confront your shadows, your people-pleasing, your self-doubt, your fear of abandonment. It's brutal work, but necessary. Because in surviving them, you don't just rebuild, you evolve. You become spiritually fluent in energy, intuition, and truth. You begin to sense darkness before it speaks, manipulation before it moves, and false love before it lands. That's not paranoia. That's divine wisdom born from pain. And that's the irony of their revenge. The harder they try to destroy you, the more they awaken you. Every cruel word, every lie, every smear campaign
only pushes you closer to God, closer to purpose, closer to self-awareness. They think they've taken everything from you, but in reality, they've stripped away everything that wasn't aligned with your higher self. What's left is pure strength, not the kind that fights back, but the kind that stands unshaken. Eventually, you stop viewing them with hatred. You start to see them as teachers. Painful, yes, but divine in their purpose. You realize they were never in control of your story, they were just a chapter in it. And while their actions may have caused damage, they also forced you to discover your true power. The power to rise without revenge, to love without attachment, to walk away without fear. That's the real spiritual lesson. You don't need to destroy your enemies, you need to outgrow them. God doesn't bless you by helping you win the fight. He blesses you by making the fight irrelevant. What once consumed your thoughts now barely crosses your mind. What once broke your spirit now strengthens your discernment. The storm that was meant to drown you becomes the water that cleanses your soul. You see, you were never meant to just survive their revenge. You were meant to transcend it. Because survival means you escaped. Transcendence means you transformed. You didn't just make it out alive, you made it out wiser, softer, and more powerful than before. So when you look back, you'll see that their revenge was never truly against you, it was against the light within you. The peace they couldn't destroy, the faith they couldn't shake, the strength they couldn't steal. And now that light shines even brighter, untouched by their darkness. Because in the end, the narcissist's greatest failure isn't losing control over you, it's realizing that everything they did to break you only built the version of you they can never touch again. You don't just survive their revenge, you rise above it, crowned not in anger, but in divine peace.
Detachment is the silent victory narcissists never see coming. It's the moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop needing them to understand. It's not anger, it's not bitterness, it's freedom. The moment you detach emotionally, their grip begins to crumble. Because what a narcissist feeds on isn't love, attention, or truth. It's reaction. Your emotions are their oxygen, and your peace is their suffocation. At first, they won't believe it. They'll test you with silence, guilt, or fake kindness, hoping you'll bite. They'll pretend they've changed, send subtle messages, or create chaos around you just to feel your energy again. But when you stay detached, calm, grounded, and emotionally unavailable, their confidence begins to break. Because the one thing they can't manipulate is someone who no longer feels for them. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring about justice or truth. It means you stop bleeding for someone who enjoys watching you hurt. It's a shift from trying to prove your worth to realizing you never had to. When you stop explaining yourself, you take back the narrative. When you stop defending yourself, their lies lose their power. And when you stop reacting, their control dies a slow, painful death. Narcissists live for energy, whether it's love, fear, anger, or attention. To them, energy is currency. Every time you argue, cry, or try to make them see your point, you're feeding their ego. But when you detach, you shut down their entire supply line. You stop being a source of validation. You stop being a mirror that reflects their false sense of superiority. And soon, they're left facing the one thing they've run from their whole lives: themselves. That's when you'll see the shift. They'll start to unravel, confused, irritated, desperate for a reaction. They'll throw emotional bait your way, guilt trips, accusations, fake apologies.
They'll act like the victim to get sympathy or act superior to provoke you. But nothing frustrates a narcissist more than indifference. Your silence becomes the wall they can't climb, the mystery they can't solve. And the more they try to get to you, the more powerless they feel. This is where true power begins, in your emotional stillness. Because peace isn't just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. When you see them for who they are, not through the lens of love or fear, but through truth, you stop dancing to their rhythm. You start moving to your own. They can no longer dictate your moods, your thoughts, or your self-worth. That's detachment, reclaiming your emotional independence from someone who never deserved that level of influence. You'll also notice something deeper. Their revenge begins to lose meaning. Every manipulation, every rumor, every attempt to provoke you suddenly falls flat. Without your emotional energy to fuel it, their drama collapses. Their stories sound hollow. Their charm fades. Their mask begins to slip faster, and people start to see what you always knew. Because the truth has a strange way of revealing itself when you stop fighting for it. And as you rise in silence, their energy starts to sink. You'll see them reach for new targets, desperate to refill the void you left behind. But even then, a part of them stays obsessed with you, because nothing haunts a narcissist more than the one who got away without a fight. Your detachment becomes their unsolved mystery, their greatest defeat. You, on the other hand, begin to heal. You start to feel peace where there was once confusion. You start to feel joy without needing validation. You rediscover your own reflection, not the distorted version they projected onto you, but your true self. And that's the victory they can never steal. Your silence speaks volumes. It says, "I've learned the lesson." It says, "You no longer have access to my peace." It says, "I'm free." And that freedom doesn't come from revenge or anger. It comes from mastery, emotional mastery, the kind that doesn't need to shout or prove, the kind that simply is. So, don't be tempted to re-engage or explain your side. Don't chase closure from someone who benefits from your confusion. You've already won the moment you stopped reacting. Because in the world of a narcissist, silence isn't weakness, it's devastation. It's the one weapon they can't use, the one response they can't predict, and the one outcome they can't control. Remember, detachment isn't about ignoring your emotions. It's about protecting them. It's about deciding who deserves access to your energy. It's about realizing that you can acknowledge pain without letting it define you, that you can see evil without letting it shape your heart, and that you can walk away without ever looking back. So, let them wonder, let them talk, let them twist stories and play the victim. None of it matters anymore, because while they're busy plotting revenge, you're building peace. While they're stuck in chaos, you're grounded in clarity. And that's the most painful truth for a narcissist, knowing they no longer have the power to break what God already healed. Your detachment is their defeat, not because you won the war, but because you walked away from it entirely. You left the battlefield, took your power, and chose peace over control. And in the end, that's the one outcome a narcissist can never manipulate: your freedom.
Detachment is the silent victory narcissists never see coming. It's the moment you stop reacting, Stop explaining. Stop needing them to understand. It's not anger. It's not bitterness. It's freedom. The moment you detach emotionally, their grip begins to crumble. Because what a narcissist feeds on isn't love, attention, or truth. It's reaction. Your emotions are their oxygen, and your peace is their suffocation. At first, they won't believe it. They'll test you with silence, guilt, or fake kindness, hoping you'll bite. They'll pretend they've changed, send subtle messages, or create chaos around you just to feel your energy again. But when you stay detached, calm, grounded, and emotionally unavailable, their confidence begins to break, because the one thing they can't manipulate is someone who no longer feels for them. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring about justice or truth. It means you stop bleeding for someone who enjoys watching you hurt. It's a shift from trying to prove your worth to realizing you never had to. When you stop explaining yourself, you take back the narrative. When you stop defending yourself, their lies lose their power. And when you stop reacting, their control dies a slow, painful death. Narcissists lived for energy, whether it's love, fear, anger, or attention. To them, energy is currency. Every time you argue, cry, or try to make them see your point, you're feeding their ego. But when you detach, you shut down their entire supply line. You stop being a source of validation. You stop being a mirror that reflects their false sense of superiority. And soon they're left facing the one thing they've run from their whole lives: themselves. That's when you'll see the shift. They'll start to unravel. Confused, irritated, desperate for a reaction. They'll throw emotional bait your way. Guilt trips, accusations, fake apologies. They'll act like the victim to get sympathy, or act superior to provoke you. But nothing frustrates a narcissist more than indifference. Your silence becomes the wall they can't climb, the mystery they can't solve. And the more they try to get to you, the more powerless they feel. This is where true power begins, in your emotional stillness. Because peace isn't just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. When you see them for who they are, not through the lens of love or fear, but through truth, you stop dancing to their rhythm. You start moving to your own. They can no longer dictate your moods, your thoughts, or your self-worth. That's detachment, reclaiming your emotional independence from someone who never deserved that level of influence. You'll also notice something deeper. Their revenge begins to lose meaning. Every manipulation, every rumor, every attempt to provoke you suddenly falls flat. Without your emotional energy to fuel it, their drama collapses. Their stories sound hollow. Their charm fades. Their mask begins to slip faster, and people start to see what you always knew. Because the truth has a strange way of revealing itself when you stop fighting for it. And as you rise in silence, their energy starts to sink. You'll see them reach for new targets, desperate to refill the void you left behind. But even then, a part of them stays obsessed with you, because nothing haunts a narcissist more than the one who got away without a fight. Your detachment becomes their unsolved mystery, their greatest defeat. You, on the other hand, begin to heal. You start to feel peace where there was once confusion. You start to feel joy without needing validation. You rediscover your own reflection, not the distorted version they projected onto you, but your true self. And that's the victory they can never steal. Your silence speaks volumes. It says, "I've learned the lesson." It says, "You no longer have access to my peace." It says, "I'm free."
And that freedom doesn't come from revenge or anger, it comes from mastery. Emotional mastery. The kind that doesn't need to shout or prove. The kind that simply is. So don't be tempted to re-engage or explain your side. Don't chase closure from someone who benefits from your confusion. You've already won the moment you stopped reacting. Because in the world of a narcissist, silence isn't weakness, it's devastation. It's the one weapon they can't use, the one response they can't predict, and the one outcome they can't control. Remember, detachment isn't about ignoring your emotions, it's about protecting them. It's about deciding who deserves access to your energy. It's about realizing that you can acknowledge pain without letting it define you. That you can see evil without letting it shape your heart, and that you can walk away without ever looking back. So let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them twist stories and play the victim. None of it matters anymore. Because while they're busy plotting revenge, you're building peace. While they're stuck in chaos, you're grounded in clarity. And that's the most painful truth for a narcissist. Knowing they no longer have the power to break what God already healed. Your detachment is their defeat, not because you won the war, but because you walked away from it entirely. You left the battlefield, took your power, and chose peace over control. And in the end, that's the one outcome a narcissist can never manipulate: your freedom.